Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper. It is 19th March 2016. The first article is related to the cyber threat. Here, let us understand, by 2020, the number of devices vis-a-vis individuals is going to be 6:1. It means more and more we are going to be electronically connected. So as and when we went into the network, automatically we are exposed towards the cyber threats. And these cyber threats are taking various forms, where the states themselves are promoting the cyber threats, and lone wolf attacks. It means that an individual hacker can get into the networks and create the havoc. So as we are more and more depending upon our social and economic actions centered around the network, it is going to create a fundamental challenge over here. That is, any intrusion into our networks can destabilize the entire society for a while. This is what has happened because of the cyber attacks in Estonia and also the Stuxnet, the United States spyware into the Natanz nuclear facility in Iran, and nitro juice. All these are the examples how the cyber attacks can worst affect the economy. So in this context, as India is moving more and more into the cyberspace, automatically its exposure is also increased. And the cyberspace is highly asymmetrical, and internet is devised on the principle of connectivity, not from the perspective of security. So why this war is asymmetrical? Now the security agencies, nations, they have to guard the networks every time, and even once a particular attacker gains the access to them, that can create a havoc. The same is the cases with the terrorism. So the security agencies have to protect them, or every time they have to win. But on the other hand, for the terrorist, he has to win only once. The same rule applies in the case of the cyber terrorism too. So in this case, what India has to do? The first one is cyber specialist pool or cyber manpower. So lack of sufficient manpower need to be addressed, and cyber security talent has to be provided for. And next is air gapping. It means certain important organizations and their computers shall be kept outside the networks. And after that, there has to be a cyber coordination. Now, National Cyber Security Policy 2013 is there in India. It also established a coordination committee, but in reality, if you see, National Cyber Technical Resource Organization, NTRO, National Technical Resource Organization, Ministry of IT and Communications, on the other hand, intelligence and defense departments, intelligence comes under the home, and the defense departments, there is a lot of gap with regard to the communication. And added to that, the world is also moving towards the offensive cyber attack strategy. Under this offensive strategy, before attacker comes to you, the state will induce an attack on them. If you take United States of America, it launched the attack on the Islamic State websites. So the state also is developing these offensive capabilities, and China is very active with regard to this. As China and Pakistan are developing these offensive capabilities, India also shall take a forward step in this area. Now, SYL canal. So yesterday also we discussed about this. From the Ravi and Bias, as per the agreement happened 3 decades back, the Haryana has a legitimate share in the waters. In 2004, Punjab annulled Punjab Agreements Act, so which was declared, which was unilateral. So in this context, the matter went to the Supreme Court through advisory jurisdiction. That is, President of India referred the matter to the Supreme Court for its opinion, and it is still pending before the Supreme Court. And recently, Haryana government has requested the Supreme Court to expedite the process. Now, what Punjab government did with the latest bill is this. It wanted to give away the land which is acquired on Punjab side to the original owners at a free of cost. It means it wants to close down that particular canal. So why the Punjab is doing that? Every time, whenever the elections are nearby, This kind of populistic measure starts from the political parties. So, in this context, the political mobilization appears to be a major objective beyond anything else. So, the point over here is, in a country which is faced with a strong diversity and federalism, political populism, if it is disturbing the center state and interstate relations, then it has to be taken a serious note. So in this context, the center has a greater responsibility. So here, the federal relationships between various states and center state shall not be a victim of the popular politics of the day. Now, politics of intimidation. Now, freedom of speech is a fundamental right which is given to an individual. On the other hand, nationalism is practiced through certain symbols. In this Bharat Mata Ki Jai, it is a symbolic nationalism. So at the same time, it's also an emotional picture. But however, there is no constitutional necessity to say this Bharat Mata Ki Jai. So in this context, a member of Legislative Assembly in Maharashtra, and when that is Waris Pathan, when he rejected to say Bharat Mata Ki Jai, so it has led to his suspension. So it is reviving, or it is leading to the something called polarization and majoritarian politics over the minoritarian politics. Because again, opportunistic politics can lead to the polarization of the people into majority and minority community, and this particular incident provides the opportunity for both. So in this context, to the possible extent, the legislatures shall show politics of persuasion, not the politics of intimidation. So the utmost patience have to be shown in these particular cases. Now, Abel Prize. Andrew Wiles, he has won the Abel Prize. So he's an Oxford professor, and his theory that is Fermat's last theorem. For this, he has given an explanation. Now, photos of the CMs in public ads. Previously, Supreme Court, headed by Justice Ramana, what it has declared is, other than Prime Minister, President of India, Chief Justice of India, no other picture shall appear in the case of the public advertisements by the government. What is the logic behind that? The objective of the public advertisements is to inform and educate the people, but not for propaganda. That is private propaganda. On the other hand, there's too much of expenditure that is leading to personality cult at the public expenditure. On this, a committee was appointed called Madhav Menon Committee, and this committee has recommended for removing all the leaders of the government of the day from this public posters. So, but the criticism is why the Prime Minister as the head of the government was allowed, and the same thing was rejected for the Chief Minister. And what is the rationale from allowing the Chief Justice of India? So, under these circumstances, Tamil Nadu has filed a review petition, and the Supreme Court has revived its earlier judgment and said that the Chief Minister's pictures can be seen, or the department's ministers' pictures can be seen in the advertisements. Now, El Nino. Now, with regard to the change in currents, I am not giving the background explanation, or I am not explaining the concept of El Nino over here. Remember that El Nino is change in ocean currents, temperature in the oceans, in the Pacific and Indian Ocean. And it is going to lead to decreased rainfall on the Indian side and an increased rainfall onto the Pacific side. So in this context, the El Nino is said to be the reason for the drought for the past 2 years. This year it is expected that in the July-August months where India gets more than 70% of the rainfall, it is going to be a Nino neutral year. Nino neutral time means where the El Nino will not be showing its effect. It means the next year is expected to be a good rainfall year. So El Nino, La Nina, Nino neutral. Understand the meaning of these terms. Revive your class notes and read that again. Now, farms grow massive incomes for select few. So what the article says is, there are more than 1.8 lakh people, or more than lakhs of the people who are reporting the farm income as their major source of income. and they are showing the disproportionately high farm income because the farm income is not taxable in India. So, this source are showing the major income as a farm income. Automatically, it is leading to a route to tax evasion. So, the government, now what it has decided is, anyone who is reporting more than 1 crore as the farm income, they have to lead to investigations by the that is income tax departments. So, the farm income, the government even, or many reports even suggested for taxing of the farm income because it is the major route for the tax evasion. It has to be plugged, it means that the farm income has to be taxed. Government slashes interest rates on the small savings. Understand this. Why the reduction in the repo rates, etc., are not being transferred by the banks to the customers? Because the deposit rates and interest rates by the small savings schemes. When small savings interest rates are remaining high, as the deposit rates are supposed to be decreased, as lending rates are also being decreased, the people are moving more towards the small savings which are government controlled rather than to the deposits. So now the government wants to bring in a parity between the deposit rates of the bank and the small savings rate. So the immediately whatever the slash made by the or cuts given by the RBI will be transferred in a real time to the customer. Again, I will explain. Now, the loan rates have to be decreased, and it also has to decrease the deposit rates. So, when the this particular repo rate changes have occurred, but when deposit rate is decreased, the income to the depositors is decreasing. So for that, they choose now to invest in the small saving schemes where the interest rates are high. Now, because banks are losing, that's why they are not decreasing the deposit rates and also they are not decreasing the interest rates on the loans. Coming to the Tendulkar poverty line. So 2004 and 5, the Tendulkar committee has declared 33 rupees as the poverty line. So in this case, it has taken $1 per day, then existing a poverty line declared by the World Bank as a norm. So this $1 is converted on purchase power parity and it was given as 33 rupees per day. Now it was opposed by many parties at that point of time. What it has been said is, the poverty line is to estimate the extreme levels of the poverty existing in the country and what government can do towards reducing this extreme poverty. It is not an indicator to provide for the benefits to the people. That's what is the clarification given. So now, instead of that, if it is kept as 50 rupees, what happens? Many new people will add into the poverty. So we lose the sight over the extreme poverty in the country. So the poverty line is kept as minimum as possible to keep a proper focus on the extreme poverty in the country. On the other hand, next UPA government has appointed a Rangarajan committee which has said 47 rupees per day in the urban areas and 32 rupees in the rural areas. And with regard to MG Narega also, the Rangarajan committee has given sweeping recommendations. Under MG Narega, even private players also can take the services. And for this, the 75% of the payment will be given by the private person and 25% will be from MG Narega fund. So it is to effectively use the services of the people and to avoid this dig the wells, fill the wells concept and to create some productive assets. Now, let's discuss the yesterday's question. How the Punjab issue is affecting the federal relations, what are the constitutional provisions to act against this. Now, you can explain the Punjab issue for in 2 or 3 lines. So, in this context, what is the role of the center? So, first, Article 253 and 254. So, the state's functioning shall not come in conflict with the center's executive and legislative authority. And after that, the 246, it brings that subject under the central list. So under Article 246, when I talk about the interstate agreements, these are under the central list. And also the reorganization of the Punjab Act, It is also made by the Union Parliament. When a law is made by the Union Parliament, unilaterally state cannot bring amendments to that. So that way, annulment of the agreements by the Punjab legislature 2004, it becomes invalid. And similarly, by the logic of interstate agreements being in the state, that is central list, this also becomes invalid. So, and added to that, the matter is sub judice, and the court has kept, Supreme Court already held the matter for the status quo. Then the legislature cannot expect to react to that. That is supremacy of the Constitution, and Supreme Court as the protector of the Constitution and its advice has to be respected. And on the other side, we can also say that if failure to oblige with the constitutional provisions, then Article 355, 356 come into force. So you can talk about the president's rule also over here. So we can say that finally, the federal relation shall not be a victim of populistic politics, and the center has to take or has a responsibility in these circumstances. That way I can close the answers. Thank you very much. All the best.